Salutations, Utopians. Hope all is well in your world. A lot of summer league action. A lot of it's getting redundant. However, there are players out there who are improving by the day, especially Demon over there from the Brooklyn Nets. Danny Wolf. Just overall, the collective in Brooklyn looks a lot more comfortable, even though Seraph needs a little help. Extra TLC. With that being said, this video is about the Bradley Beal acquisition for the Los Angeles Clippers. Same day he was bought out by the Suns, he was already pivoting towards the new stadium, the Into a Dome. Um, with that being said, um, I'm glad to see when fan bases are excited. It's always a great thing to see. Uh, you know, ultimately, there's no game without fans, myself included. Um, and so, you know, you want to put together a product. And for the second straight year, Lawrence Frank seems like he knocked it out the park. Um, Not to harp on it too much or make this seem like it's a diss, but obviously, uh, not spending that money on Paul George, especially after the recent news of Arthur's re-aggravation during this offseason of his knee. It looks like more and more by the day that was the right decision to not re-up him, even though he kind of made it himself that decision when he couldn't get that extra year on the contract. Um, this offseason, they added Brook Lopez. Obviously, they're uh, getting another year with their prospects like Christie, and they're going to have a full off-season training camp with Bogdan. They drafted a center from Penn State, first ever center to get drafted in the first round. First ever player from Penn State to get drafted in the first round. He's from France, uber athletic. And like I said, Brook Lopez will be in front of him on the depth chart, but they're going three deep at center. They got John Collins, who I think a lot of people are sleeping on all the qualities. People talking about he's another great paint player. The guy can space the floor, still extremely athletic, and there's not a lot of natural fours in the league. And then recently the acquisition of Bradley Beal, and I think this now brings more clarity to why they felt comfortable letting go of Norman Powell for peanuts on the dollar. As everyone knows, Norman had a double deuce last year, points per game. People were lobbying for him to get into the All-Star game. Goes to show you how much the Clippers thought of that north of 20 performance last season, getting something what they deem to be more stable. I do have some concerns here. The NBA gets confusing for me these days in terms of the storylines, because we're talking, if we let the story tell it itself, you have a guy who's a coach killer, two-time coach killer with guys who've actually won championships, and he was unhappy with his role, forcing the Suns to not only the official numbers. I haven't seen official figures, but I'm willing to bet it's the largest buyout in NBA history, clearing the Kemba Walker 140 million. But the bigger problem right now that I'm seeing is that you have a guy who cost the franchise, two coaches, a bunch of money, and just salary cap of his own, not to mention the money that they've spent, almost 70 million in coaches, dead cap money and coaches left now they're paying out. And then you know, Beal is going to be something over 100 M's, I'm sure, on a stretch provision 5-year plan. And then you had to lose Kevin Durant for next to nothing. Jalen Green is practically the problem with the Suns roster in the first place. Too many shooting guards. So you didn't really get nothing back from a Reed Shepherd to a Cam Whitmore, which I don't know if that would have even worked with Dunn being there. But today Dunn did get injured. It looked like an Achilles for a moment, but he was stretching it with the band. I'm pretty sure he's done with Summer League. Not quite sure if Summer League would have done anything for him anyway. Maybe a preseason, but a Summer League might have been a little bit too much, but who wants to armchair quarterback that? But remember, Bradley Beal's old running mate, Russell Westbrook, even though they have two different styles of game, did not like being in the middle of Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. And now Bradley Beal, who's already voicing frustration, not being treated like another fellow star like in the amongst the realms of the Devin Booker, who obviously just signed 75 million per year over two, and he's gonna get that twice, 2 years, 150 m's, and so uh, to me, I don't think it's as groundbreaking as people are making it out to be. Um, I don't know how much of a full-time starter Bradley Beal can be with the, limitations of being over 30. He is younger than Norman Powell by a little small margin, but ultimately at the end of the day, the Lawrence Franken's done a phenomenal job of carving out a respectable roster that's worth watching, worth attending, and giving Ballmer the ability to try to continue to make back on his investment with everything that's going on with the Clippers. James Harden, uh, believe it or not, looks more valuable to me than ever. Uh, I thought the Heat, if they were really serious, would have went after, targeted him. I would have thrown the kitchen sink. They were James Harden away, not a Kevin Durant. They don't need another wing. I don't know. It's just weird. They'll celebrate Norman Powell, but they want to see Andrew Wiggins traded. The fans. It's just in terms of just what I gather collectively on social media, but um, it's just very odd, But ultimately, at the end of the day, kudos to the Clippers. I still think the Lakers are the second best team in the NBA, but that's just my opinion. But they definitely can give like the Denvers and the Houstons of the world a run for their money. I would say Denver. Houston's a little bit more of a delicate situation. They got some young uh, Thundercats over there on that front line, who are starving to make progress, and so that youth, that physicality, athleticism, especially just thinking of Segun, and then when they want to put Adams in the mix, it could get tricky. But they definitely can give teams like Denver, uh, Memphis, that caliber team a run for their money. I don't even think I wouldn't say even Minnesota. Minnesota's Houston, LA, OKC. Let's just say Kawhi would have to get back to his 2019 form in terms of just dexterity and bounce in his step. And I think he's going into this year fully healthy. I don't know if he plays enough basketball to have that continuity that you need in June, July, but they're putting out a good product worth watching. This coming from a guy who always says, you don't have to win a championship to be worth paying attention to. And so they put together a great product. They did a great job, and the sky's the limit. Anything's possible. They don't have any flaws in their starting five. Nobody's got a perfect five out there. Everyone has their questions, but they have literally every player at every spot that naturally plays their role, as much as you could possibly ask in this modern day era of interchangeability. They have five. They can brandish five players who are naturals at their position, and I don't think Beal can do what Norman Powell did for a whole 82 even, but I definitely think in some ways it's more reliable and steady, because remember they had to move off Porter. They're not afraid of taking risk. I know Porter was out of the country due to some off the court issues. They gave him a second chance. Now he's in Milwaukee, got re-signed on a team-friendly deal. So they're not afraid of rolling the dice. Ty Lue's highly respected amongst NBA circles. I don't think it will be as toxic, but there is margin for a potential. There is always a possibility it could go south with Bradley Beal, but he's on such a team-friendly deal. I think he's just happy to change environments. And, hey, LA's a little more entertaining than Phoenix, if we're being honest. All right, Utopians, I hope this video was informative. I'll try to do better next time. Global, out.